scientists have found the legendary golden city of El Dorado, and in Hitler's secret bunker in the Alps, documents about horrific experiments were discovered. Today we will embark on a journey to the most incredible places hidden in the mountains of our planet. Sit back and get ready to be amazed. We are heading up into the mountains. The first stop is the Himalayas. In 2018, a group of experienced climbers, making their way through the snowy expanses at an altitude of 14,764 feet above sea level, stumbled upon an astonishing place. Amidst sheer cliffs, where only icy winds and eternal frost reign, they discovered a wooden door embedded directly into the stone wall. No paths led to this place, and no signs of human activity were visible around. Just a solitary door about 6 feet tall and 3 feet wide stood there, like a guardian protecting something unseen. Its surface was covered with rough carvings, incomprehensible symbols that looked as if they had been etched hundreds, if not thousands, of years ago. Some lines resembled circles, others zigzags, and some seemed similar to ancient scripts, but no one in the group could say for sure what it meant. Behind the door was a short tunnel that ended with a plaque inscribed with unknown writings. They couldn't decipher them. The climbers took photographs, discussed what they saw, and decided to return the next day with better equipment to document everything. But here's what makes this story so mysterious. When they came back, the door was gone. The rock where it stood was smooth, as if polished by nature over centuries. No cracks, no traces of wood, no hint of yesterday's passage, nothing. They searched the entire slope, checked every foot of the stone surface, but it was all in vain. The weather remained clear, no storms or avalanches that could have covered the tracks occurred overnight. The climbers began to doubt their sanity, but the photos from the first day with the open door, the tunnel, and the slab proved that they hadn't lost their minds. Time passed, but the door was never found again. Next, the Andes await us, mountains that can boast both their beauty and the gloominess of their caves. In 2015, a group of researchers, making their way along the slopes of Peru at an altitude of 12,467 feet, stumbled upon a cave that took their breath away. Inside, they saw hundreds of human skeletons, neatly arranged in straight rows along the walls. These were not warriors, not victims of battles. The bones belonged to women and children, which made the discovery even more sinister. Each skull bore traces of trepanation, an ancient operation where holes were drilled into the head, sometimes the size of a coin. Carbon analysis showed that these remains are about 1,200 years old, dating them to a time when ancient cultures flourished in the Andes. According to one theory, a ritual was conducted in the cave to connect with the mountain spirits revered by local tribes. Other scientists suggested that they were attempting to treat illnesses here. Epilepsy, headaches, or even possession, as it was believed at the time. However, researchers are also intrigued by another discovery in the cave, several stone altars covered with dark blood stains. Analyses showed that the blood belonged not only to humans but also to llamas, animals that were often sacrificed in the Andes. The stains were old but preserved thanks to the dry mountain climate. Near the altars lay fragments of pottery and pieces of wool, as if someone had left them in a hurry. The cave became a sensation, but it also raised many questions in the scientific community. Why were there so many bodies? Why was trepanation performed so frequently in this particular cave? Now let's head to Europe, to the Alps. The mountains that have given us one of the most famous and captivating mysteries in history. In 1991, two German tourists wandering the slopes at an altitude of 10,531 feet, near the border of Italy and Austria, noticed an unusual corpse in the snow. It was Otzi, a mummy aged 5,300 years, preserved in ice, so perfectly that scientists still refer to him as a man from the past. Otzi was found in a pose as if he had fallen asleep, lying on his side, one hand under his head, the other extended along his body. He was wearing clothes made of hides, bear, deer, and goat, sewn with coarse threads made from sinews, with the fur inside for warmth. Next to the body were his belongings: a copper axe with a wooden handle, a yew bow, not yet finished, and a quiver with 14 arrows, 2 of which were ready for battle with flint tips. It turned out that Otzi did not die of natural causes. In his left shoulder, an arrowhead was lodged, deeply embedded in the flesh, tearing an artery and causing fatal bleeding. The wound was fresh, inflicted shortly before he froze in the ice, and traces of someone else's blood were found on his hands. He might have been fighting before his death. Otzi became a true treasure for science. His body is kept in a special chamber in the Bolzano Museum, where the temperature is maintained below freezing to preserve him as he was 5,300 years ago. However, Ötzi still raises many questions. Who were his enemies? Why was he so high up in the Alps? We continue our journey, and now we are in the Rocky Mountains of the USA, a place where nature loves to amaze and frighten at the same time. In 2019, at an altitude of about 9,842 feet in the Piklong area, a group of tourists witnessed an incredible sight. Late in the evening, bright lights suddenly lit up over the rocks. They were unlike anything familiar. They didn't twinkle like stars or blink like airplanes. At first, everyone thought they were drones or lights from some camp, but the lights moved too chaotically. They would hover motionless, as if stuck to the sky, then suddenly dive down, leaving behind a faint golden glow that dissolved into the darkness. One of the tourists, armed with a camera, captured it on video. 3 yellow spheres, each about the size of a basketball, danced in the night sky as if playing with each other. Later, it was discovered that the indigenous people living nearby call such lights the spirits of the mountains, luminous guardians that protect the sacred peaks from outsiders. According to legend, these lights appear when someone disturbs the peace of the mountains or, conversely, when the spirits want to show the way to the lost. Could it be that the tourists disturbed the peace of ancient beings? Bring your winter jackets, it will get colder ahead. Let's move to Antarctica, to the Ellsworth Mountains, where in 2016 satellite images revealed something that took the breath away from scientists and mystery enthusiasts alike, amidst the endless ice and rocks, where temperatures dropped to minus 70 degrees. In Fahrenheit, a shape resembling a pyramid about 1,200 feet tall emerged. Its edges were so sharp that it seemed as if someone had carved it out of the ice with a giant knife. The British Antarctic Survey quickly provided an answer. It's simply a natural peak, formed by wind and erosion. Over millions of years. Rocks in Antarctica often take on strange shapes due to the harsh conditions. Ice storms polish them like a sculptor, leaving bizarre shapes. This discovery sparked a wave of theories. Some claim that the pyramid is a remnant of an ancient civilization that existed before Antarctica was covered in ice 34 million years ago. After all, once, in the distant past, this continent was green, with forests and rivers. Other researchers suggested that it is an alien base hidden under the ice. In 2017, a group of researchers decided to investigate the pyramid on site. They made their way through the snowy deserts to the Ellsworth Mountains, armed with drills and cameras. After long days in the ice hell, their report was brief. Yes, it's a rock, yes, unusual, but nothing supernatural. They took samples. Ordinary granite and basalt, no signs of processing. Or perhaps the pyramid should have been studied from the inside, not the outside. And once again, we are in the Rocky Cliffs, in the Teton Range area in Wyoming since the 1980s, people began to notice a strange low hum that seems to come directly from underground. It was described as a mix of a heavy engine running and distant thunder. Local hunters, returning from mountain trails, were the first to talk about it. They reported that the hum appeared suddenly, without any apparent reason. Since then, stories about the hum have become part of local legends, and it has been heard by dozens of people, from tourists to longtime residents. In 2013, seismologists decided to investigate and installed equipment at an elevation of 9,514 feet, right in the center of the Teton Range. They recorded vibrations with a frequency of 10 to 20 hertz. This is too low for the ear to detect a clear sound, but enough for the body to feel pressure and a slight tremor. The recordings lasted for hours, and the hum would intensify and then fade, as if following some rhythm. But the source remained a mystery. Some scientists suggested that it was underground water flowing through cracks in the rocks, creating resonance. Others pointed to tectonic shifts. Titan lies in an active geological zone where Earth's plates rub against each other, generating low frequencies. However, no exact explanation was found. The sound was too consistent for random water flows and too rhythmic for simple shifts. It is still unknown what or who emits the hum from beneath the Earth. Now let's ascend to the highest point on the planet. Everest, 29 feet above sea level. It's the summit of dreams for many, but also a place where dreams end forever. Above 26,247 feet begins the death zone. An area where the air is so thin that the human body literally dries out from lack of oxygen. Here, among the ice and rocks, lies the Rainbow Valley. An unofficial cemetery of climbers, named so because of the bright jackets, red, blue, yellow, frozen in the snow like colorful spots on a white canvas. Since 1922, when the first expeditions to Everest began, more than 300 people have died here. Some from the cold, some from exhaustion, and some fell into the abyss. About 200 bodies remain on the slopes because bringing them down is an almost impossible task. Among them are well-known landmarks, like the Green Boots, an unknown climber in bright green footwear, whose body has served as a beacon for those heading to the summit since the 1990s. He lay on his side under a rock with a rope wrapped around his waist, and his boots became a symbol of Everest's harsh reality. But in 2014, the Green Boots disappeared. Someone either took the body away or it was buried by an avalanche. No one knows for sure. Some say the Sherpas managed to bring it down. Others say the mountain itself decided to remove its marker. And in 2020, new remains were found. Climbers with a rope around the neck and traces of blood on their clothes, but without documents or equipment. The identity of the climber has not yet been determined. We continue to delve into the mysteries of the mountains, and now we are in Russia, in the Caucasus, a sunlit region where amazing secrets are hidden. In 2017, a group of speleologists, while exploring the slopes of Mount Fisht at an altitude of 6,890 feet, stumbled upon a cave that was a real shock for them. They entered, expecting to see ordinary stalactites or underground streams, but instead, their flashlights illuminated a flat stone floor with huge boulders lying on it, weighing from 50 to 300 pounds in weight. At first glance, nothing unusual, but when they returned a week later to continue their work, they noticed something incredible. The stones had moved. Not miles, of course, but just a couple of inches, yet faint tracks in the dust trail behind them, as if someone invisible had pushed them across the floor. The speleologists froze, checking their records and photographs. There could be no mistake, the boulders had indeed moved. Cameras and sensors were set up to understand what was happening. Over a month of observation, one boulder, weighing about 150 pounds, moved 15 feet, and without any apparent reason. No jolts, no water flows, not even a slight tremor of the ground. The movement was slow, almost imperceptible to the eye, but the camera captured every inch. The stones seemed to crawl, leaving a thin trail of dust behind. Scientists studied the composition of the rock and discovered magnetic minerals, like magnetite, which could react to weak geomagnetic fields. One theory suggested that these fields somehow pulled the boulders, creating tiny vibrations that accumulate over time. But even this explanation seemed shaky. The stones moved too smoothly and evenly, as if obeying an invisible hand. What was really moving the stones? Researchers have yet to find out. Let's go back to the Andes, where the mountains have been teasing people for centuries with myths of untold riches and lost worlds. Everyone has heard of El Dorado, the legendary city of gold that Spanish conquistadors sought in the 16th century, driven by greed and tales from the indigenous people about the Golden King. In 2001, archaeologists working at an altitude of 8,530 feet in Colombia found traces that revived this dream. At Lake Guatavita, surrounded by the steep slopes of the Andes, they unearthed the remains of a settlement of the Muisca people. Stone platforms, paved paths, and deep pits from which about 500 gold items were extracted. Figurines, bracelets, masks, weighing up to 10 pounds. Each carbon analysis showed that they are 800 years old, dating them to the era. The peak of the Muisca people, known for their rituals, the Lake Guatavita, according to legend, was sacred, and treasures were thrown into its waters to appease the gods. Archaeologists have confirmed that the bottom is littered with traces of such offerings. The settlement was abandoned suddenly without any signs of battle, fire, or natural disaster. Houses made of stone and wood stood empty, hearths cooled, and pits filled with gold remained untouched, as if the inhabitants left in one day, taking nothing of value. Where did they go? Could they have hidden in a place that researchers have still not been able to find? Considering the vast forests of South Africa, this is quite possible. Now we move to Europe, to the Bavarian Alps, where the mountains hold grim secrets of the 20th century, steeped in history and shadows of the past. In the 1940s, at the height of World War II, the Nazis built at an elevation of 6,017 feet above sea level the Eagle's Nest complex, a mountain residence of Adolf Hitler, gifted to him on his 50th birthday. It was a luxurious fortress with panoramic windows offering views of the snow-capped peaks, a place for meetings of the Third Reich's elite. But few people know that beneath this grand facade, hidden up to 300 feet deep within the rock, lies a secret bunker that rumors have surrounded for decades. It was only discovered in the 1990s, when a group of climbers, exploring the steep slopes nearby, noticed a sealed entrance. A rough concrete slab, barely distinguishable among the rocks, with rusty bolts along the edges. They reported it to the authorities, and excavations began, unveiling the grim secret of the Alps. Inside, there was a network of tunnels 2 miles long, narrow cold corridors lined with thick concrete, with low ceilings and dim light from rare lamps that had long since burned out. The tunnels led to several rooms. In one, they found rusty generators, still connected to wires. In another, there were metal cabinets with peeling paint. In the third, there were tables and chairs. In the bunker's archives, they uncovered papers mentioning mysterious experiments. Exactly what kind is unclear. The records were fragmented, with torn-up pages, but they spoke of new technologies and underground tests. In one of the rooms, they found traces of chemicals on the floor, stains that glowed under ultraviolet light, and strange metal boxes locked with combination locks that they couldn't crack. Some historians suggested that chemical weapons or secret devices, which the Nazis kept secret even from their own, were tested here. Others spoke of darker things, biological experiments, or attempts to create something from Hitler's occult projects. These were the most astonishing mysteries of the mountains. Which one intrigued you the most? Caught your attention the most? Write about it in the comments. Like and subscribe. Ahead of us are even more mysteries of the planet.